All right, everybody, welcome to Fall 2022, a virtual cyber IT career panel on behalf of GCC and Estrella Mountain Community College, as well as our PepsiCo Foundation Uplift Scholarship. We welcome you to today's panel. We are so excited to have experts here joining us this evening to share their expertise with students. And this is just a reminder that this panel is really for our students to gain as much insight and information. So we encourage questions throughout. I'm going to be doing a few housekeeping rules before we get started. Just to remind you all, if you do have a question for any of our panelists, you are more than welcome to drop your question in the chat. So at the bottom right-hand corner, you should see a little chat feature, so you can open that up and make sure that you are putting your questions in there. We do have a few questions that we have provided to our panelists, but really the idea is for this to be student-led. So our goal is that we don't have to ask all of our questions, and instead all of your questions are going to be answered. In addition, if any of you are here for extra credit, we are recording. And I'm sorry, we are providing an assessment at the very end of the presentation. So we ask that you please stay with us at the very end. And in addition, we do have Keoki, who's here from the PepsiCo Foundation Uplift Scholarship from our district office, which is essentially a scholarship program where students can receive a mentor throughout their academic studies, as well as scholarship opportunities. And applications are opening up for the program, so we encourage you to stick around to hear more about that opportunity available to our IT students. All right, so again, this is student-led. We encourage you throughout. If you have any questions, please make sure that you're going to be dropping them in the chat. We will make sure to monitor them. So we're going to go ahead and hello, Vega. Yes, if you guys want to say hello, let us know where you're from, what you're majoring in, what college you're attending. That would be great. We welcome you. We are so excited that you're spending your evening with us. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like for our panels to maybe introduce themselves, tell us what you do and where you work, and we'll start with that one, with that question. So any of our panelists, feel free to jump on in, unmute, and get started.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and start us off. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be here and chat with you all. I appreciate that. So my name's Jason Woodside. I am the Senior Director of IT Customer Engagement for Honor Health, which is a health system here in the Valley. I've been in IT for about 25 years. Prior to that, I was in the Navy. I served in the submarine service, and originally from the cornfields of the Midwest, but have been in Arizona since 1997. So a few years.
Hello, my name is Greg Davis. I am currently working in IT. I've been in IT for 10 years. Previously, I also served in the military of the United States Air Force. I did a career change when I was there. I did air traffic control when I was there, but I pursued my computer science degree while I was serving and loved it, but kind of have moved on to working in IT. The current job I have, I've been there for 10 years. I work in a network and operations center for a company that's based out of Virginia.
All right, I guess I'll go next. Hi, everybody. My name is Alexiss Mailloux. I am a former Estrella Mountain Community College graduate. It's been a few years, but I work in cybersecurity. I am a cybersecurity analyst for a financial company named Conga. I also help manage their vulnerability program there. I've been working in IT for about 5 to 6 years, in cybersecurity specifically for a little over 4 years. I also do commentary for several video games on the side, so that's why I'm sure people will be seeing the distracting funny mic. I really enjoy cybersecurity. It's been a lot of fun. Prior to that, I actually worked in medicine, so I've had quite an interesting journey. Not quite as robust as everybody else on the panel, but I hope to bring a lot of value to the panel today.
My name's Katie. Currently, right now, I am a security consultant for cyber risk and advisory at a company called BSI Group. Not everyone knows BSI Group until you start talking ISO 27001, which is the framework, and they're the company that essentially created the framework along with tons of other frameworks. I also am a graduate from Australia Mountain Community College. I did my degrees in Linux system administration and Cisco system administration, and then went to NAU to do with the 90/30 program, the information technology management degree. I've only been out of college for about 4 years now. Started out as a project manager overseeing SOC audits, and then started doing consulting just because it's allowed me to explore my passions and kind of have a wide set view within the technology side of things versus just doing one thing. I do tabletops and design programs and architecture, and so I get exposed to a lot of different areas of IT, which is kind of nice with consulting. And then also I was in the Navy too a long time ago.
Awesome, thank you. Was that everybody? We have Greg, Alexis, Katie. Jason, did you go already? You did? Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was trying to catch up. There was tons of chats coming in, so I was monitoring those at the same time. We actually, I didn't even have to ask my first question. We actually have a question that has come in. So it looks like this question is for Jason and Greg. Will you talk about if a security clearance from a military background helped pave your way into the civilian workforce?
I guess I can go ahead and go first. And I saw that pop in, and obviously Katie also shipmate. She has that military background as well, so she may have, especially in her role. For me, I've been in quite a few different sectors in my 25 years in IT. So in my time in my industries, it hasn't been something that I've really leveraged, that I had a security, secret clearance in my former role. However, I would say from the perspective of what you gain from having those responsibilities and being able to, I would say in roles where you are dealing with sensitive data, whether it be through cybersecurity, audit, things of that nature, whether in my role in leadership capacity, you sometimes are exposed to sensitive information. I think it's helpful from that perspective to say, hey, I know how to handle things that are sensitive, and I can demonstrate to my leaders, to my customers, to my partners, that I have that sort of background experience. But directly, I haven't been in any roles where I leveraged that clearance.
Thank you. Katie or Greg, anything to add to that?
For my, with my specific role, I do have clearances, and then I do have to do a lot of background checks. Each company that I'll work with, or the company specific, they have their own parameters. So we have very large companies that do hold proprietary information. So those companies, because we are coming in as a consultant, we're kind of seen as a contractor. So we are going to be subject to the same scrutiny to that information as any employee that would work for the organization. And then also, one of the certifications I have is CMMC, which is working with a lot of DoD contractors. So that does require that you have your background and your security clearances so that you can perform work within the organization.
Awesome, thank you. I don't know if you all see this, but we are having questions coming through. Let me scroll up a little bit. Let's see here. It says, what did you, Katie, major in college? Also, do you think a bachelor is vital to get a position like yours? I don't think anybody, when you introduce yourself, I don't know if you shared, some of you did share that you were where you graduated from, but maybe for those of you that haven't also, maybe sharing your college background would be really helpful for students. And that second question could probably apply to many of our panelists as well, right? Do you think a bachelor is vital to get a position like the ones you all currently have?
So at the risk of gaining a reputation of being the first one to jump into every question, I didn't answer my educational background. So I actually, while I was working full-time and starting a family, I did get my bachelor's and then my master's, both in business administration. I was already in IT, but for me, and my path, I felt like a business degree would be what I wanted to pursue. But obviously, educational background in IT, CIS, cybersecurity, things of those nature. That's very valuable in the industry. I think there are still roles within IT where a bachelor's or a master's is preferred but not required. But in the 25 years I've been in IT, that's shifted over time, where I think more and more roles more strongly prefer formal education. That's been my experience.
And I would agree with Jason too. With me, my degree, so I have the AAS from Australia in both the Linux system administration as well as Cisco system administration. I did not, however, go and get my CCNA because right after I was doing my AAS, I was transferring to NAU to do the IT management, which was I think like a 10-month program. I don't want to speak for everyone in every field. Education is great, but at the end of the day, time and experience and certifications are really what hold the weight when it comes to being able to negotiate jobs and positions. Is you can have the education, but once you're through that, then it's what certifications do you have. And what I didn't know prior to kind of joining the field is that you have to have, before you can take a certification, you have to have sometimes 3 to 4 years of actual experience, and you can't use your education to compensate for that the same. You have to, you can graduate and you still may have to wait 5 years to take CISSP because you have to have the time in the role doing the job before you can actually obtain the certification, because you have to have someone sponsor you. And they do check your employment history to see whether they validate that experience before they'll issue a certificate. So that's just something I didn't even know 5 years ago. I just thought people went out and took all the certifications and got them right away. But yeah, you can't.
So I guess I'll go next. So I did mention I am a former graduate of EMCC. I only have an associate, but I do have 3 associates. I have one in networking technology, Cisco, gosh, I can remember the exact word for it, Cisco networking administration. And I also have one in cybersecurity. Now I did the 3 tracks for Linux, networking technology and cybersecurity, especially because networking technology and security coincide very well. You know, they're kind of best friends in that field. With that, to answer your question, it depends on the level of the role that you're applying for. A lot of entry-level positions don't necessarily require a bachelor's degree. And I've actually seen some where nobody has any experience or any degree in the related field. Let me rephrase that. They don't have a degree in the related field, but they may have a certification And a lot of times your certifications or your degrees are what gets you in the door, what gets you that interview. It may not secure you the position, but it definitely looks good on a resume. And that's what a lot of companies are going to be looking for as they're scanning through resumes when they're looking to hire somebody for a position. I think what tends to be more valuable is the work experience. As Katie mentioned, a lot of times companies will look at, and not just companies, but certifications will not just look at your educational background, but your work experience background. So with Keoki here today, I think it's extremely valuable for everybody to pay close attention, because having an internship opportunity will give you a huge jump start in any IT field, especially because you can take that knowledge you're gaining in your classes and now have a real world application to put it together. Hopefully that answers your question.
And just to add on to that, I do, when I was in the military, I said I was doing air traffic control, and I was always wanted to get into computers. And so I did the computer science degree. Did that help me to get into my current job? 26 years in the military. What I started to do when I got out was go for certifications. As it's been said, that's a huge part right now. I think it is important to have some type of academic training, and different jobs are going to have different levels of what that is. But I do think that getting your certification, having the experience, I've got the opportunity to get into a network operations center with no background in IT. That was, a good chance for me, and it's helped me grow a lot. But also with my resumes and things, it does help me with having a bachelor's degree. So certifications are definitely a good point. And then when you get into the career, it's you're always learning. So you may go for your bachelor's degree later. You may go for your master's or whatever the other certification. So it's continual education all the time.
Yeah, just to tack onto that. Oh, sorry, Azelle, just to tack
No, go
onto
ahead.
that too. I mentioned a little bit about the fact that it depends on the level of the position you're applying for. So obviously a senior role or something much higher is going to require, more formal education. So a lot of times you'll see in those senior roles, you're going to want to have those certifications, or even, a bachelor's or master's degree. And it's similar too, depending on the company you apply for. A lot of the larger scale companies and corporations may require a bachelor's degree because of the expertise that they need in their appropriate field.
Thank you. So Joseph in our audience asked a question. We kind of alluded to some of this, but he wanted to ask, he knows that there's a lot of students on the call, or on our panel tonight joining in. And as such, there's many that are getting a degree or a certification that are not currently working in the field. So what advice would you give to someone wanting to start out in the field, and finding a job in the field?
I'll break Jason's streak and go first. As somebody who I would say is a somewhat recent graduate, I didn't have any background in IT. I had never built a computer when I first started out in college. I was actually a nursing major. So starting out when you're still in college, or even a recent or new graduate, the biggest advice I would recommend is networking. And this alludes to one of Azelle's questions that she has for us, but the value in communication and networking will far surpass any sort of web job application or job search website that you can have. The IT in cybersecurity community is a lot smaller than you think. And sometimes it's not always just who you know, but who you know who knows someone. Majority of my positions that I've gotten in cybersecurity is because I knew somebody in a company that either ran the company or was already employed with them, who was able to get my foot in the door and help me. And obviously I had to close the deal on my own, but networking. There's a lot of really great cybersecurity groups out there. Obviously joining panels and being part of this is a great way. And then also talking with your fellow classmates. I have had classmates where I sat next to them or sat across from them, and then a few years later, they end up employing me, or vice versa. So that's the value in being able to network with other individuals in this field. Hopefully that helps.
I 100% agree. Every job I've gotten has been simply because someone I knew or I had met kind of knew what I was looking for, or I just was able to meet the right people. And again, you have to close the deal yourself, obviously, but it's instead of having, I've never actually submitted a resume into a job and had them call me. It's all been personal discussions. And one thing to add on to like what Alexiss is saying is find a mentor. So there is having mentors in our business and is so invaluable. Find someone who does what you think you want to do. Reach out to them, meet their network. LinkedIn is huge. Anyone you meet on LinkedIn, add them. I mean, meet them in real life, right? But or if you see someone who works at a company that you want to work at, don't just try to connect with them coldly. Send them a message and say, hey, I really like the company. Can you tell me more about it? And what I love about the IT community is it is very small, but everyone is very, very supportive of each other, and seeing other people grow and seeing each other succeed, because we all at some point are going to need somebody else. And so building those connections and that network out and having a mentor is invaluable. And the side note with the mentor is a lot of companies, especially like depending on if you're not, super entry level, but once you become a little bit higher up, you have to mentor. It's kind of part of your package that you have to sell yourself to your leadership to show how you yourself are reaching out to the community and engaging. So most people, if you ask them to be your mentor, will probably agree to do it.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to echo a lot of what Katie and Alexiss was saying, but also look at it from a slightly different framing. So your reputation matters. But back to the points that both of our colleagues made, it's as big as Phoenix is, the IT community is smaller than you might imagine. So when you get into the industry, inevitably you either know someone or know someone who knows someone. And I'm a firm believer, and really experience has shown that a good work ethic, a stand-up personality, coming in, inquisitiveness, a willingness to learn, to grow, it goes a long way. Every industry, there's the entry level job tier, if you will. So there are these aspects. Getting your formal education is extraordinarily helpful, just from the knowledge you gain, the experience of going through the stick with itness, to use a word that might not even be real, but that's never stopped me in the past. And also there is that piece of larger companies in particular will put filtering in, because they might get hundreds of applications for a single or a couple of jobs. These are all critical factors, but when you start your job, what I've never found, and if others have found differently, by all means, I can only speak from my experience and the teams I've led, but nobody expects you to know everything day one. It really is learning as you're there. Google is your friend. It will always be your friend in this industry, because things change so quickly. And really, it's keeping that curiosity, working hard, being forthright and honest, and just being a good team member. It goes so far. It really does.
Awesome. I'm going to go a little out of order with the questions, because there was a question that was asked that was kind of connected to what you all are talking about. A lot of you all talked about networking and the importance of networking. And so a student asked if you guys have any tips for introverts who want to network but sometimes struggle with networking.
The only advice I would have is find somebody that you trust and practice, right? Do small groups. I still go to Australia Mount EMCC. Tracy still has the CSLUG meetings like almost every single month. And even though I graduated 5 years ago, I still go. We go out after the seminar usually to get a bite to eat right around the street. And those are really, it's a very relaxed environment, but everyone's in the programs, everyone's in that area. Ryan, he's employed and hired, not Ryan, oh gosh, who am I thinking of that had a job the last meeting that we had. He was looking for somebody. So you never know who is looking or who knows of something that you're looking for. So find someone you trust. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it by yourself, practice and, work your way up to those types of events, because that's really where you're going to get a lot of interaction.
Yeah,
Oh.
and I'm sorry. Please.
Oh,
go
no,
ahead.
no, Jason, please go ahead.
And another suggestion, and I know you were asking in the framework of maybe like a networking event potentially, but I think from the mentoring and seeking out a mentor, that's a one-on-one relationship. And keep in mind, just like any room you walk into anywhere in the world, about half the folks in there are also introverts. So one of the things that I don't happen to be one, but my wife very much is. And so I've learned a lot of things over the years. And one of the things that is unfortunate is sometimes in some environments, introverts don't seem to be as valued as extroverts. But what I've found is, in my own personal experience, there's so much thoughtfulness that's going on there that sometimes it does take that one-on-one connection and giving somebody an opportunity to open up. And it's like, wow, this person knows their stuff. And again, if you're not super comfortable going to some event where there's 100 people in a room, then by all means seek out those smaller group opportunities or the individual opportunities, or as Katie said, as a great strategy, grab somebody that and that way you don't have to feel like you're going solo to something.
Jason could have said it better than myself. No, absolutely. If you're nervous, bring a friend. Even if they're not entirely interested, they may learn something, and you kind of have that sort of comfort there. At least one person. And I think the one-on-one interaction can be even taken a step further. Just if you're sitting at an event, let's say a panel, or maybe you're watching somebody give a presentation at a CSLUG meeting, or even a larger scale cybersecurity event, like Black Hat or something like that, turn to the person next to you. Ask them what they do for a living. Ask them what they do for work. Simple icebreaker questions can really open up a bigger conversation, and you can find ways to connect with another person. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy or deep. Like I mentioned, I can turn to Keoki or I can turn to Katie and just ask, what do you do? That sounds really interesting. Tell me more. And sometimes too, it can be a simple compliment. If you like their t-shirt or something on their t-shirt, you can find a way to connect with them as well. I always think the best way to start a conversation is to compliment someone, because it starts things off on the right foot. That, or just make a joke about the situation. I love to acknowledge, an awkward silence, because I think it makes everybody kind of laugh. So those are some of the ways to at least initiate that first interaction, because the rest of the conversation tends to flow a little bit more easily from there. Everybody who usually attends these things, we all have that common interest of IT and cybersecurity and technology. So we already have that initial connection. So it's just building upon that.
Great. And we also saw some supportive comments from peers saying that study groups really help them build connections. We had at least two peers. And as a reminder, many of our colleges have clubs and organizations on campus. And that's a really great way for you all to build communication, leadership, collaborative, like so many wonderful skill sets. And it's always great to challenge yourself too, right? You go to a networking event and give yourself a goal. Like, I want to leave here finding out 3 different people's names or something like that, right? So just challenging ourselves, taking ourselves out of the box is one of the best ways to do that. Okay, I'm going to try to jump back in. There's so much engagement happening in these comments. It's truly hard to keep up. Let's see here, because this is one of the easiest ones I can filter through really fast. Do you need to be decent / good at math to be able to work in this field or to get a certification in this type of field? Oh, coming in with the math questions. I love that.
I was waiting to see if it was, I'm back to the first one. What can I say? So it depends. With a lot of these questions, it really is, it depends. So generally for most IT roles, I would say no, you don't need to necessarily be good at math. There are some, if you want to get into programming, that path, often there is a heavier need to understand deeper level math. But for most of IT, I would, again, my experience, no, not so much. And again, depending on what type of role you have, there's more or less that you might get into, but frequently there's tool sets that have been developed even, and I'd love to hear Greg's thought or experience on this, not to put you on the spot, sir, but when you're looking at more from a network operations, things of that nature, I remember back a couple of decades ago, my dogs, somebody rang the bell. So of course that means the dogs are like, somebody's invading the house. We have to defend it with our lives. But anyway, just to finish my thought, when I was going through networking training about 20 years ago, you really had to learn how to convert things to binary and do all this stuff. But then when you get into the industry, there are tools that break out your subnets and things of that nature. So again, I'd be interested in, Greg, you're probably much closer to some of that than I am, what your experience is.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The mechanics of learning it when you first start out, getting the binary, wrapping your head around that is, different. It was challenging, but not impossible. I mean, there's so many, going back to something that someone said, talking about connecting. You've got someone in the class who knows that very well. Work together, understand it. But definitely when you get into industry, there are tool sets there. There's applications, there's different things you can go on and Google. And as something I was going to speak to later, but if subnetting is something that is your weakness, then you continue to try to strive to get better at it. It's never going to be easy. It's not going to go away. It's something that's part of networking. But again, as has been said, it's not the overall arching thing that you've got to be a math wizard and know calculus. When I did computer science, we went all the way to calculus 3, and I'm wondering, like, why am I learning all this calculus? It's just, but it's part of the program. So depending on where you want to go, how far you're going to go with it, but in your basic networking things, which I think a lot of this cyber security and networking, it's not overwhelming what you're going to have to learn. And there are tool sets.
Yeah, in all honesty, I was never very good at math. That was always my weakest subject. I was actually more of an English person. For me, in my current roles, I think it's important to have an understanding of good mental math, and maybe math concepts that apply directly with computing, as far as like subnetting, or maybe just understanding how, like, numbers adding and subtracting, things like that. But do I use calculus, college algebra, things like that? Not so much in my day-to-day role. There's a lot of great resources online as well. I Google half the things that I do because I don't know everything. I will never claim to know everything. And I think all of us can agree that none of us know everything. Or if you do, I would love to learn from you. But yeah, I don't think you necessarily have to be strong at math. It is important, though, to have those basic concepts down, because that builds a great foundation and again, it's role dependent, but it does build a great foundation as you move forward in your career. Yeah,
and
role dependent.
The last thing I'll add is I don't really use a ton of math. I I do network audits. So I have to, even though I hate subnetting, I do have to understand it, at least at the very basic level. But I'm not like writing out subnets, and I'm not doing any of the routing tables or anything. But one thing I didn't realize was the amount of reporting or reports I would write, and how incredibly important it is to learn how to write and write well and be able to articulate the information, because I write reports almost every single day. I write emails every single day. I'm leaving notes. And so you really need to be an excellent communicator within our role, which can be sometimes a struggle, and learning that curve. But more than math, it's really just English, honestly.
Awesome, thank you. There was a question in relation. I totally feel like an outsider. I need to look up subnetting and understand what that means. But there is a question. Oh, I lost it. What about IPv6 subnetting? Somebody asked that question specifically.
It's not going to go away. It's here to stay. I mean, sooner or later, networks are going to go to IPv6. So I'm pretty sure that's a networking. It's just like anything else. We have to learn it. We're supposed to be, as old as I am, we're supposed to be in the metric system, but we're still not there yet. So it's a growing path. But specifically to that question, yes, we are going to be using IPv6. We have some of it in our network that I work in, but it's not the main drive of it. So you're still going to be doing subnetting with binary and tools. I think I saw a question, what are those tools? I mean, there's so many on the network right now. I think you're going to have to get comfortable with what helps you to understand it. The light bulb comes on at different times for different people for different things. But there's different things that I've found that help me to understand it and going over it. So I saw another question about programming and learning with that into networking. Networking is ever changing. Right now, we deploy stuff with automation and APIs and different things in programming. But the one thing I'll say to that, all of that is still based on the very basic stuff that you learn in your networking classes right now. It doesn't change. When you troubleshoot those things, you're still going to have to know what the subnet is. Even though it may be automated or programmed, you still need to know how that program is pushing out those subnets to those devices. So a good tool sets are there, but understanding the basic math, it's not going to be something that's going to be overwhelming and defeating, but that's how I can add to that question.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I have to go back to the very top because I think I missed this one. We have a student who's a first generation college student, and while she feels like she's done well with understanding codes, she's not sure where she can apply, or the student is not sure where they can apply their knowledge. So if any of you have any insight as to what areas of the workforce might require a programming degree or a great understanding of programming languages such as Java, Python, and C#.
No, I don't work necessarily in programming, but I can say think about the kind of roles that would interest you. It's easy to kind of force yourself into a mold, but you don't always end up happy that way. It's better to think about, well, what excites you? What interests you? Is there a language you enjoy programming? Is there a type of program, is it gaming? Is it maybe OT or IT? Is it financial programming? So on and so forth. What field interests you? And then start to look at maybe some of those roles, whether it's software development, whether it's quality testing, or quality assurance, and start to look at what the requirements are for those roles. A lot of times you can Google, like QA analyst, or you can Google, backend developer resume, and you can actually see what people put on their resume. And you can also look up those job titles and see what they require and kind of compare a couple different ones. Even if you're not going to apply for the company, you get an idea of what those roles are going to require. And that allows you, A, to figure out where you fit in your skill set, but B, maybe where your skill set is lacking. And that way you can start to build that out a little bit better.
I just wanted to say congratulations on being a trailblazer. I was the first person in my family to get a degree of any kind. And, now my sister went back to school, got her bachelor's. My eldest is in his freshman year of a degree program, and it's hard, but it's worth it. And I wanted to say congratulations because it can be scary to be that trailblazer. But I completely would signal boost what Alexiss was saying. Finding what you're passionate about, pursuing that. I think that there's also the aspect of learning how to learn, and how to leverage resources. And I'll go back to something I said a few minutes ago. Nobody expects you to come in the door knowing everything. And even if you have an expertise in a certain area of IT, you frequently have to learn that organization's way of applying that thing. So really, I think Alexiss really brought forward an outstanding point of find something that really speaks to you, that you're passionate about, and learn what you can there, but also understanding that you're going to need to have some flexibility to adjust that, how you apply it into your actual career path.
All right, I've noticed quite a few questions in regard to internship. For those of you students that were inquiring on how to find internships and such, it looked like Landis did drop a link to Maricopa Pipeline AZ, whereas of course one place where you can go to search and apply for internships. And then, if you're a student at a specific college, you might want to see if you have someone on campus that could also assist you with that. But in regards to internship, somebody on here asked, what is the best way to get an internship? So, and along that question, if you guys did get an internship, what did you guys do to get an internship?
I got mine through Astoria Mountain Community College. So especially the community colleges within Maricopa have a plethora, a fountain of knowledge and resources for you. But also your professors. You can always talk with your professors. I actually got my internship from a previous student who then worked for a company who I networked with my professor because he taught their classes. They graduated, and then I learned the classes. Shout out to Tom Pollard, teaching the networking courses at Astoria. Because of that connection of a previous student, I was able to, again, network my way into getting an internship with a cybersecurity company for a security operations center. So community college is the short answer, your college and your college's resources.
I didn't get an internship, but I do want to kind of speak on internships because I've worked for companies that offer them. Be very cautious. Do not take internships where you are not getting paid. Do not accept free work. It's not worth it. If the company is not willing to pay you for your time, then they're not a company that you want to be at to begin with. Apply early. Do sometimes, like I have a friend who works for RSA. RSA's scholarships or their internships are usually booked out like the summer before. Intel. I worked for a place that offered internships that did pay, which was this company, Protivity. So a lot of times for some of these companies, they go to college campuses. So like ASU might have something, or NAU might have something, or you can look and they have relationships with companies where they're specifically holding like recruiting events for internships. But again, this is where networking is going to come in handy as well, because companies may not be advertising their internships. And if you know someone who works at a company and you are looking for one, they're perfect to sync you up with the person that can get you in the door. But don't do it for free, whatever you do.
Absolutely. No, don't work for free. I can echo that from Katie. There's a lot of paid internships out there as well. sometimes too, you can go on websites and you can search internships, but I will still continue to push. Please reach out to your community college and your professors, and they can help you help direct you the right pathways.
I muted myself and I meant to unmute myself. Apologies. All righty, let me try to go through here. The engagement is so high, and if you can believe it, we're at 6:47, and I don't know what it is about these IT cyber panels that we do every year, but it flies, and somehow we never have enough time to get through any of the questions. I feel like we're just scratching the surface. So one of the questions asked about job opportunities. What kind of what advice or insight do you have regarding job opportunities in your respective fields?
So I think that there's been a lot of kind of flavor of answers kind of throughout the evening, as far as you know, finding an area of interest, looking for networking events, you know, potentially community, kind of a like different IT community for this or that or the other, leveraging LinkedIn, leveraging your resources. From a generally speaking point of view, and perhaps I'm misunderstanding the question, and I might be answering it and completely the wrong way. So I apologize if that's the case, but don't get discouraged, right? So there are tons of IT jobs, and one of the things I tell folks, you know, so I mean, right now my team that I lead is almost 100 folks. I've in 20 years of managing teams of different sizes, if I've hired less than 500 people, I'd be shocked. So I've been on that side of things probably more than I've been on the other as an applicant. The fact of the matter is, any organization of any size, so let's just pick a number and say a dozen or more people, there's going to be some kind of computer. There's going to be some sort of IT related need. Don't just get discouraged. Stick with it. Find some place that's reputable, and just remember, you are going to get out of it what you put into it. Sometimes you might get a gig and it's like, you know what, this is not really what I thought I was signing up for. Okay, no harm, no foul. Try to stick with it long enough to build a line on your resume, and learn what you don't like. Sometimes learning what you don't like is just as important as learning what you like, right? But again, IT is such a huge, vast field with so many organizations that need IT, information security, IT risk and assessment, IT audit. There's so many different flavors that, you know, and life's too short to do something that you don't love to do. So again, I'm not sure if that really answered the question, but you know, that's what I'd offer up.
Awesome. I mean, we're at 6:51, and I want to make sure we have some space to talk about our PepsiCo Uplift Scholarship Program available for our IT students. So we are just gonna, if each of our panelists, if you could share one piece of advice to our students entering into the field, what would that advice be?
I would say, and this has been kind of a common theme throughout this entire panel, is network, network, network. Do not be afraid to meet people in this industry. Do not be afraid to network with them. Don't be afraid. I'm sure, at least myself, please add me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to talk with you and answer further questions on the industry. Don't be afraid to attend these sort of events, especially when they're at home. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. You can send your pajamas and listen to a bunch of professionals talk about what they love. So, but yeah, network with other professionals, because you never know if the person next to you or in front of you is going to be giving you a job one day.
Well, I'll put my idea into it, is that have a passion to learn, because you're never going to stop learning. And it's definitely an appetite for it. I have it. I think many people on the panel have talked about it. But again, as it's been said, networking, definitely I'm on LinkedIn. You can look for me. I like mentoring and doing that type of stuff. Someone, it's playing it forward, as they say. It's going to be someone out there. And don't let a discouraging situation take you for something that you want to do. It's always going to be some roadblocks to get over, but there's always also success in that path. So definitely do that. And another foot stomp is learn the basics, all that stuff with subnetting and stuff. And it's tough. Learn what your weaknesses are, because every huge problem, whether it's a cybersecurity or network, starts on the very bottom of what is the foundation of networking, whether it's auditing or working in a network, is those basic skills. So in your academics, find out what those things are, work on your weaknesses, hone on your strengths, look for those people that you can network out there. And this panel is all, most of us are offering to be the voice for you if you need help, and definitely seek those things, and don't be afraid. It's a lot of work out there, and it's continuously growing.
I'll go next. So the biggest piece of advice, I speak a lot at different colleges too, to like digital forensics or just different IT classes. And one question always pops up where they ask me, like, do you ever feel like you have imposter syndrome? And I find it so ironic, because it's like just because I've been doing this for 5 years now, doesn't mean that every single day I don't feel like an imposter in my job, where I still struggle with, what do I know? Why am I being asked these questions? And it just kind of builds on the fact that you are always learning with your certifications. You're constantly having to do the CPEs and the continuing education credits and the classes and the seminars. So you're always going to be learning. So just be really open to that. And then I dropped my email and LinkedIn. So if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to help.
I think that just leaves you, Jason.
I thought I started us off, but you know what? I can pretend, and I can say.
I'm sorry, you did. You did.
The better news for going last is then you have all these more clever answers that you can say, what these guys said. That's
Ditto. Sorry about that. Okay, so that wraps up our panelists. Keoki, do you want to take a few minutes to talk about the program that we have in our district?
I do. Thank you, Azelle, first of all, for organizing this wonderful event. And special thanks to our panelists, Jason, Greg, Alexis, and Katie, for joining us tonight. I'm sure you have something better to do on a Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock. But thank you very much. It's very heartfelt. Thank you. And for the students who are on this discussion this evening, I'd like to let you know that starting on October 24th, which is next Monday, the application will open for the spring 2023 semester. And it is the PepsiCo Foundation Uplift Scholarship. And it's also a scholarship program. The difference between a scholarship and a scholarship program is a scholarship says, congratulations, you have money, bye, don't talk to us again. The scholarship program is, congratulations, you have money, and we're going to be here, which we is me, going to be here for you until you graduate our program and get out the door with a degree or some sort of credential, okay? And I am with my students every step of the way, even though I'm a work from home person, because I cover 10 campuses, but I am very much accessible because we do everything through the Canvas learning management system. And so the PepsiCo scholarship, just to give you an idea what the requirements are and what you can get from it is, first of all, it's up to $1,000 per semester, as well as giving you a supply and book stipend. And you need to have a 2.50 cumulative grade point average. You must be able to take at least 6 credit hours per semester. And you have to have a FAFSA on file. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to qualify for Pell or any loans. PepsiCo just wants to see that you applied for a FAFSA because it is the last dollar. Anything that your financial aid does not cover, PepsiCo will come in and wipe out that balance, your account balance, for you to get it down to 0. And what I like the best about this is the DACA students are eligible to apply. And we at the district have made an additional concession because we know that some DACA students cannot apply for a FAFSA, and that is a requirement to have the PepsiCo scholarship to be considered. But if you are a DACA student and you don't have the ability to apply for a FAFSA, that requirement is also waived, and we will not make you have that requirement. And that's all I have for now. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I want to tell you. So once you get the scholarship, you will work with me, your case manager, and we will have periodic check-ins once in the semester and at the end of the semester. If you require weekly or bi-weekly meetings with me, that's more than enough, and that can definitely be done. And you will have motivational messages every week. We will have trainings for you about study habits, time management, and some other things like this event that we're having tonight to get you exposed to the industry and people in the industry. So you are not alone. You'll be working with me through your experience while you're going to school. And that's what I wanted to say. And that's all I have for you tonight as far as what the PepsiCo scholarship is going to do. And I'm going to drop the link to the scholarship into the chat so that you can, let me see, apply. That's going to take you to the landing page, because if I give you the link directly to the application, somehow the computer recognizes my IP address and always gets you into my application, which is never going to be submitted. So you have to go to the landing page, and then at the bottom of that page is the link where it says apply now, and that will take you to the application. Okay, and hopefully we'll see more scholarship applications starting next Monday, the 24th. And I bring it back to you, Azelle. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. And once again, thank you so much to our fabulous panelists, Alexiss, Greg, Jason, Katie. We appreciate your time in giving back and sharing your knowledge to our students. A huge thank you to our students who also invested their own personal time in learning more about the industry. You all were amazing and engaging, and I always wish we had another hour when we do these panels. The panel has been recorded. It will live on GCC's Career Services YouTube page. I dropped the link in there. So if you were not able to attend the entire panel, but would like to go back and view it, we encourage you to check out our website. I did drop the link in there. And if you are here to receive extra credit, I'm going to drop in the link one more time. We ask that you just click on that and click on the Google form, and that will come back to us so we can let your faculty members know that you participated tonight. We had an amazing crowd. Our numbers stayed high throughout the entire event. So that's amazing. So again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.